is it where that may not be the case at all? We've completely missed the whole point of the things, subhanAllah. Khair, I'm not going to take too much, inshallah, time, and we are going to start right away. And I want to request Mufti Abdul Wahhab Sahib, he's over here, inshallah. And the topic for tonight is maintaining our iman during the time of fitnah. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our iman. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit and increase our iman, and especially benefit from this lecture and from this talk, inshallah. So if you can just give us 1 minute. Our brothers are not able to figure out why the voice or the sound is missing on the live stream. Oh. No, actually, it's not picking up from here, it's picking up from directly. They can hear me now? Can they hear me now? Yeah, I can hear myself on the phone. So that's it. So 45 minutes to an hour to go. So 45 minutes to 20 minutes. I don't know. I don't like these things, man. They're so hard to deal with. It's good. I'm using this because this is going to be used for Q&A, but until then, it's like in so let's go.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay guys, I know it's like 11:30, but we all had iftar, we had dinner. That's a pretty weak response for Houston. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know you all made a sacrifice. You all came here today when you had the opportunity of going to Suhoor Fest. So may Allah reward you all, may Allah bless you all. And if you're going there afterwards, then you get double the reward, I guess, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for coming so late and being present in this gathering. May Allah bless Sheikh Tawqir for hosting us, for ISGH for hosting this beautiful program, and inshallah allow them to continue doing this. It seems like every year we end up having a Qiyam night over here, alhamdulillah. Who was here last year for the Qiyam night? A few nights? A few hands? So the rest of you guys, where were you guys last year? Suhoor Fest? Allah bless you all. Jazakallah khair for coming out. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي العالمين الذي اسمه مكتوبا في الإنجيل والتوراة أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن أراد الآخرة وسعى لها سعيها وهو مؤمن فأولئك كان سعيهم مشكورا وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أبا سفيان جئتكم بكرامة الدنيا وخير الآخرة أسلم تسلم أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Many brothers, sisters and elders, before we even speak about the idea of how to protect our faith, the question is, why do we protect something? How does it become... Oh, okay. Before we can speak about how to protect our faith and how to be able to maintain faith in difficult times, the first question is actually, why do we protect things anyways? And why does it become important and significant for people to protect and preserve certain things in their life? It all starts with the simple concept of, do I value this or not? And the moment someone values something and there's a value attached to it, the idea of protecting it is quite synonymous, and it's added as a part of the process of what I value. And if I don't value something, and if I don't truly identify it to be something that brings benefit to me, then the entirety of the world can scream from the rooftops that this is something valuable, protect it, but I will not protect it because I don't see that it brings true benefit in my life. I don't see that it brings value in my life. How can we speak about the concept of protecting something if that something has not truly felt, or that something has not truly found a place in my heart that is the ultimate source of value for me? We buy phone cases for phones, we buy insurances for cars, we have home insurances. Everything that we value as mundane as a phone has protection policies because we believe that they bring value in our life. There is nothing that we possess that brings more value in our life than our faith. It is the ultimate source of presence. It is the ultimate source of value. And the moment that I am able to identify that this is something which truly brings me value in this life, the how is quite secondary because the why has become clear. Allah in the Quran does not dictate to us how to protect our faith. Allah in the Quran does not make us responsible of the how in life. Allah makes us responsible for the why in life. The how remains the domain of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the people of Ashabul Kahf, the 7 youngsters that the sheikhs recited about today, they went to a cave when their faith got tested by the king, Daqyanush, who wanted to kill them because they believe in the oneness of God. These 7 youngsters were not fixated on how to protect their faith. They weren't thinking about how. They simply identified why. They said, we cannot compromise our faith because this is the greatest source of value for me. This is what allows me to feel who I am. This is what allows me to feel strength, because we seek strength and we find strength through our associations. The greatest source of strength and value for us believers is that Allah has blessed us with the blessing of Iman. In the moment I am able to allow that to be clear, then the protection policy comes quite easily. It comes as a part of that discussion. But if I don't believe and I don't act in a way that I understand that this faith of mine is the most valuable asset for me, then regardless of the technicalities of how to protect one's faith, this person will never aim to do so because there's no value. Ask a father who buys the child a car, who buys the child or the son or daughter a nice watch or a nice phone, and that child will not treat it in the way that it should be treated. And when the parents ask why not, there's no real answer. But everyone knows that the real answer in that person's heart is simply that they have not been able to value it the way it should be valued. And if they had, it wouldn't be treated that way. If they had valued it, it wouldn't be such that their phone is breaking every few months, because there's a value added to it. The Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in were people that understood. Their mentality shift was that they understood that there is nothing else in my life that brings me more benefit than the faith that the Prophet gave me. Therefore, protecting it was by all means, all hands on deck, the most important aspect of their life. If that meant that they had to leave their homeland in Mecca and go to Medina, so be it. If that meant that they're standing on a battlefield and across them is their own sibling, then so be it. Because what they understood is that this valuable asset can never be taken away from me again. It has to be honored and it has to be valued. The Prophet ﷺ endowed these people with this mentality that there's nothing more valuable than faith. When Umar radiyallahu anhu was entering into Bayt al-Maqdis, on the conquest of Bayt al-Maqdis, when Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiyallahu anhu was a general of the army, and as they entered into the Muslim camp, and Umar radiyallahu anhu went ahead, and the Christian emperor said that we will hand over the keys of Bayt al-Maqdis to you without a fight, without a battle, as long as your leader comes to us. So if Umar radiyallahu anhu comes, no fight. We'll just give it to you. So he comes and he presents himself, and as he's preparing to visit the Christian leadership, Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu looks upon him and he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, أَيَنْبَغِي لَكَ أَن تُبَدِّلَ ثِيَابَكَ? Is it okay? Is it okay? I hope I'm not too hard pressed to ask you, can you change your clothes? You don't look the part. You have some patches on your clothes. And he chose to live a life of complete abstinence. That was his choice. You don't look the part. Please change your clothes, because these people will not honor you and revere you the way they should. Change the way you look. How many times have I heard, each and every one of us, have I heard, why don't you change the way you pronounce your name? Why don't you change the way you dress? Why don't you change the way you present yourself in a room? Why don't you change the way you identify yourself in a room of people that are all looking towards you as someone as honorable, but you refer that honor to something completely different other than Allah and the Prophet ﷺ? Why don't you not pray in the corner of a room? Why do you believe in something called Mi'raj, which is so illogical? These are the questions that are asked to us on a daily basis. Why not simply assimilate? And our response is assimilate to what degree and to what extent? Till the point where there's nothing left of us anymore anyways. What is the point of assimilating if what we bring to the table is not being seen as something valuable? What is the point of having a seat on the table if my seat does not bring value to everyone around me? And when he was asked this question, he gave a simple response. And he said, Kunna adalla an-nas. My dear friends, he said that we were the lowest of people. There was not a community that was more deeply drowning in the ditches of societal diseases than the community that was present before the coming of the Prophet ﷺ. We were the lowest of people. We were actually burying our daughters alive. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّنَا بِالْإِسْلَامِ. Allah honored us. Allah gave me a voice that is worth being heard. Allah gave me a presence that is worth being recognized because of my religion, not despite of it. We believe that the more religiosity, whatever that means for us, that comes into our life, it will perhaps diminish our presence. It will limit our abilities. It will confine our talents. Whereas we see in the Sahaba's lives that never has it happened that when a person adds more deen in their life, that it removes or limits their abilities or limits their presence. It only adds. Deen has never entered into a space and taken away from it. It's only given. Makkatul Mukarramah was a land that was absolutely barren, lifeless. No human, no animal, no bird would be seen at a distance. Makkah was a land that nobody had heard about for years. No bird would be seen flying over this land. What changed that Makkatul Mukarramah became the land that all of us love more than any other city in the world? What changed was that there was a family that came, which was the family of Ibrahim and Hajar, and decided to value their faith and bring deen into the community. They built a masjid. And when they built that masjid in the Kaaba, everyone's hearts were attached to it. Madinatul Munawwara was a city that was known as Yathrib. Does anyone know what Yathrib means? Yeah, sickness, flu, disease. That's what it meant. Like the name of the city was literally like sickness. If you thought Houston was bad, just you think it, you know. But it was called sickness. The Prophet's father passed away in Yathrib on the journey from Syria. He got sick. The Prophet's mother passed away on her journey back from Yathrib. People would really get sick, and it was a difficult city to travel to. The Prophet entered the city, and the name changed to Al-Madinatul Tayyibah, Al-Madinatul Munawwara, the purified city, the illuminated city. The landscape didn't change. The resources didn't change. The infrastructure didn't change. I want to change the infrastructure so that the impact that I bring is more. No. I want to change the level of value that I have for my deen so that my presence is more impactful, so that my presence is truly effective and efficient. There was no change in the city. All that changed was the Prophet came. And the people of that city changed the way they lived their lives. And they started acting upon the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they realized that this brought value to them. And the city became the city that we see as the most peaceful city in the world. What changed was the addition of deen. What changed was the addition of sunnah. What changed was the addition of the Prophet's love. We can never feel, and we should never feel, that by adding these components, something is removed from us. By adding these components, there's only things added into our life. These people understood that. And therefore, it was a difficult time there too. It was a time of fitnah, where people were being killed for being a Muslim. It was a time, we're not the first people to ride this rodeo. We are not the first ones that have had to struggle for their faith. There was a Yasir who was killed because he believed in Allah. There was a Sumayya who was made shaheed because she believed in Allah. There was a Mus'ab ibn Umair who was the prince of Mecca. The prince of Mecca. As youngsters, we think we've got it. This man was given everything. He was the wealthiest youngster in Mecca. He was the most attractive person in Mecca. He came from the noblest family of Mecca. And he became Muslim, and his mother took everything from him. What fitnah am I dealing with in comparison to the fitnah of my mother saying to me, you are not my son anymore? Of my mother saying to me that leave everything in this house, even the clothes on your back. And when this man left the world, in the battle of Uhud, he was 22 years old. He was the first ambassador of Islam that went to Medina. We don't have a hijrah. We do not have a hijrah if we don't have a Mus'ab. He was the one that set the footing, the welcoming, the foundation for the Prophet to come to Medina al-Munawwara. 2 years later, he became shaheed in the battle of Uhud. And the Prophet of Allah, later on in his life, when he saw the wealth that came in post Khaybar, he would say, God, I wish Mus'ab was alive so he could see this. They didn't see any of it. That was the challenge. The challenge, the fitnah was there from the time that deen began. بَدَى الْإِسْلَامُ غَرِيبًا وَسَيَعُودُ غَرِيبًا فَطُوبَى لِلْغُرَبَاءِ. It's always been this way. We've always been strange, not because we're off, not because we're a sore thumb, but strange because society is always off. Because the norms are always dictated by the people of those places. Where there is no law that rules the land, there is desire that rules the hearts. How can a land be dictated by someone's desires? How can a home be dictated by someone's whims and desires? Hence, the law was given to us as a source of protecting us from all these fitan. We are not the first people who have been challenged because of our faith. These were people who were not gawked upon and stared down upon because of what they look like. These were people whose arrows, there were arrows that would be flung their way because they would be seen walking with the Prophet ﷺ. These were people who would have to hide their Islam in Mecca because they were afraid if people found out they would have been killed. How did they protect their faith? Because we don't fix what's not broken. They protected their faith simply because of two components. Two components. Number one, there was a mindset shift. And the first part of that shift in the mentality of these people was that now they had become akhirah-centric. Whereas the world around them was dunya-centric. They became focused upon that which is everlasting. And they were ready to let go of those things that were temporal, not compromise. We oftentimes say, I compromise my dunya for my deen. I compromise, man. That mentality of compromise is already a mentality that shows we are not completely confident on why we're doing what we're doing. It's not a compromise. It was never worth it anyways. It was never worth it anyways. It's not a compromise if I can go for a Jum'ah and I have to leave my job for an hour. I had to go for Jum'ah. It's not a compromise if I serve my parents and I can't go out with my friends in the evening. It's not a compromise if it's a necessary component of our life. No one says that I compromise something of my life to go to work. You have to go to work. We have to serve our deen. So the two components, the two mentality shifts, number one, they became akhirah centric. Their goal in life became, how can I preserve my akhirah regardless of what happens to my dunya? Not that they became passive, and not that they became completely oblivious of the reality of this world. They were wealthy people as well. But the goal became that I wish to preserve my akhirah. The goal became, I wish to decorate my akhirah. And if that means there will be certain challenges, that's a part of the journey for me. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there's a person who says, I believe, truly think that they can make such a beautiful statement and not be challenged for it? There will be challenges that come upon us, and those challenges will come and they will hurt us where it really hurts. They will hit us where it really hurts. But akhirah centric. And we notice that in their lives, that from the moment they became sahabas till the moment they left this world, their constant fikr, their constant concern was, have I preserved my akhirah? When Umar radiallahu anhu was stabbed 14 times in Salatul Fajr, and he passed out, and he woke up, the first thing he asked about was, did I finish praying Fajr Salat? Because they were concerned about akhirah. He said to his son Abdullah ibn Umar, his son was holding his father's head on his lap. He said to his son, take my head off your lap and put me on the dirt. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'min, oh my father, I would never do that. He says, oh my son, if me as Umar ibn al-Khattab have done whatever I have done, but I have not preserved and reserved my akhirah, then I am a nobody. Because what mattered most was the akhirah for them. When Nu'aym ibn Hammam radiallahu anhu, a companion in the Battle of Badr, speaking about this yesterday in Bear Creek, in the Battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ was encouraging Sahabas to be courageous, to be present. And he encouraged them through akhirah. How can you encourage someone with something that they're not attracted to? It's like telling a child that I will give you A or B, and that kid's like, I just want candy though. You can only attract someone through something, you can only motivate someone through something that they're attracted to. When the Prophet of Allah said, "O my companions, stand firm. If you stand firm, there is a paradise that is waiting for you." This youngster, he hears a narration where the Prophet says, there's a paradise that is waiting for you that is 10 times the size of the heavens and the earth. This young man looks at the Prophet ﷺ, he had dates in his hand. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, are you saying that if I go to the akhirah, I will have a Jannah 10 times the size of the heavens and the earth? He says, yes. He puts his dates down and he rushes forth and he becomes shaheed. They were akhirah centric. The Prophet ﷺ, one day Fatima radiallahu anha came to him. Fatima radiallahu anha was the Prophet's most beloved daughter. There was no one more beloved in this world to the Prophet than Fatima radiallahu anha. She comes to him at a point where her hands were somewhat tattered up. She had blisters in her hand because of the chores that she was constantly working upon and she was busy with. She comes to the Prophet of Allah and she says, Ya Rasulullah, oh my father, look at my hands. Like I have bruises, blisters because of all the weight that I carry and all the work that I do. O Prophet of Allah, O my beloved father, I've heard that you have been gifted with some maids and servants. Is it okay if you give me one of them so he can support me? And the Prophet of Allah looks upon her and says, O my beloved daughter, who I love more than anyone else in this world, what if I was to tell you that I can give you statements, and these kalimat and these statements, whenever you recite, you will definitely not feel any sense of struggle and pain from this world, from whatever you're doing. I can give you those statements, or I can give you the servant. What do you want? I mean, if it was me, I would say, Dad, give me both. Like, what kind of question is that? Do I want this or that? Like, it's a pretty, come on. She looks upon her father. At the end of the day, she was the daughter of our Habib. She says, oh my beloved father, give me the statements. These statements will help you in this world, and they will secure your akhirah. That was the hadith. That they will remove pain in your life, and they will be the source of shelter for you in the akhirah. So in every given moment, the Prophet of Allah is turning the mentality of these companions towards the akhirah. Towards the akhirah. And the statements were the famous statements of Tasbih Fatima, Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, Allahu Akbar 34 times. This was given to her when she came to ask for a servant. Like, imagine going to your father to ask for a credit card and he gives you like a new Quran. Like, I got that on my phone. I don't need a new Quran. He gives you a tasbih, gives you some Zamzam. I came for your credit card. Zamzam I'll buy online. That's the point. It won't work out for us because the mentality is, how can I first secure my dunya? And their mentality was, how can I first secure my akhirah? How do I protect my faith at the time of fitan? The same way they did it, because they had fitan too. They had the same challenges, sometimes worse, sometimes the same as us. The packaging of the fitna changes. Their packaging was different, our packaging is different. But the concept of fitna has always remained consistent throughout the history of people's faith. To turn them towards akhirah. Umar radiallahu anhu, one day, he walks into the Prophet's room after knocking on the door, and the Prophet sits up. And when he sits up, he was laying, this is a hadith in Bukhari, so it's a very authentic narration. When he sits up, he has these marks on his back. They filled his back. And he says, he starts crying. He says, Ya Rasulullah, the kings of Kisra and Qaisar, Persia and Rome, they sleep on the most lavish beds and blankets. And you don't have a bed to sleep on that doesn't leave marks on your back? We have failed you as a community. We have failed you. And the Prophet of Allah said to them, grabbing him by his collar, Awa fi shakkin ya ibn al-Khattab? Are you still in doubt? Are you still in doubt? Lahum fi dunya wa lana fil akhirah. For them, they will receive it in this dunya, we will receive it in the dunya as well. But we will surely not compromise our akhirah for this mundane temporal benefit of this world. So the first mentality shift as youngsters that we have to be able to internalize, my dear friends, is what is truly important to me. This is not a question that is answered through emotions. This is also not a question that is answered through anecdotes. This is a question that is truly answered through the metric of time, and energy. Where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my energy? Where do I give my time to? I can't say that I find the most value that comes into my life from the gym if I never go to the gym. I can't say, because emotions don't win anyone any brownie points in akhirah. Emotions are a byproduct of the good that we do. And they're also an extension of the sins that we commit. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he says, for every good deed that we do, there are these natural effects that take place in our life. And they allow us to feel good about ourselves. And every time we commit a sin, there's also natural effects. There's 5 for each. If you guys can write this down and learn it and remember it, I think it will truly motivate us to do more good. He says, because naturally, it's nice to have multiple incentives for one thing. Like if I can go hit 2 birds with 1 stone, why not? So he says, إِنَّ لِلْحَسَنَةِ ضِيَاءً فِي الْوَجْهِ وَنُورًا فِي الْقَلْبِ وَقُوَّةً فِي الْبَدَنِ وَبَرَكَةً فِي الرِّزْقِ وَمَحَبَّةً فِي قُلُوبِ النَّاسِ. He says every act of goodness that we do will give us these 5 beautiful blessings. 5 beautiful blessings. Number 1, by the way, we believe that what I eat affects my body, what I drink affects my body, needles that I take affect my body, We also believe what I look at affects my body. We also believe what I listen to affects my body. We also believe how my tongue is used affects my body. How is it possible that the food that I eat affects me, but my eyes that are openly looking at whatever it looks at doesn't affect me? Of course it affects us. And these are the effects. إِنَّ لِلْحَسَنَةِ ضِيَاءً فِي الْوَجْهِ. The first effect, and the Prophet is so merciful, he says, for any good deed, hasana is a singular noun. Any good deed that we do, the first effect of it is that Allah places a sense of radiance in a person's presence. That you feel good in their company. ضِيَاءً فِي الْوَجْهِ. You don't feel that they're a burden upon the gathering. And neither am I a burden upon them. ضِيَاءً فِي الْوَجْهِ. There is a radiance that comes from them that is due to their good, not because of fair and lovely, right? No, because they do good deeds. And you can sense it. Prophet ﷺ, more than 35 people became Muslims just by looking at the Prophet's face. It wasn't just the way he was created, it was the effect of the good that he did. It has nothing to do with the hue of our skin. It has to do with the deeds of our hands and our legs and our eyes and our feet. Number two, he says, وَنُورًا فِي الْقَلْبِ. Allah places a light in the heart. You know, sometimes a youngster will say, I don't understand, why is there a difference between me serving my parents and not serving my parents? Why is there a difference between me and listening to haram and not listening to haram? My dear friend, that's because we've lost a spiritual heartbeat. There is no spiritual heartbeat within our heart. There is no light that can dictate for us what is good and what is bad. So everything seems the same. We've removed the coloring of the heart. So everything looks the same. Nuran fil qalb. Allah places a light in the heart. If you remove, some of us, if you go home late and the lights are already turned off, right? You try to walk around in the dark. Is it harder or is it easy? Is it harder? Pitch dark. What, is it easy to walk in the dark? That same house that you walk into every single day, you still bump your funny bone somewhere. You still hit your knee somewhere. You walk there every single day. But since there is no physical light, the simplest movements become quite difficult. Just moving in your house becomes difficult because there's no physical light. My dear friends, the same is the reality of the spiritual light of the heart. That if there's no light here, then the simplest things become a burden. Praying salat becomes a burden. Serving my mother becomes a burden. Protecting my eyes becomes a burden. Because the heart needs that light, which allows it to dictate how we act. And if we don't have it, then there's no way to distinguish what is good and what is bad. And what happens to a person if they stay in that dark room for long enough? What happens? Huh? U of H, pretty intelligent people here, as they say. What happens to a person that is in a dark room for long enough? Their eyes adjust. Their eyes adjust. Now they say, no. Don't turn the light on, I can see everything. I can see. Because their eyes adjusted. And now they will actually fear the light. Because they feel like they can see everything, because their eyes have adjusted. Similarly, a person who doesn't have the light of the heart, they will actually believe that I don't need it because the heart adjusts. And it sees everything to be the same. So how do we bring light back into the heart, which protects us from the fitnas around us? By simply adding the metric of doing a good deed. It will bring light into the heart. Number 3, he says, Ibn Abbas, وَقُوَّةً فِي الْبَدَنِ, that Allah will give this person strength internally. He will have internal strength to protect himself or herself. He will have the willpower to not say something back to his parents when they say something to them. He will have the power to be able to contain his tongue when people are backbiting around him. This power is simply an extension of good deeds. قُوَّةً فِي الْبَدَنِ. How are we able to protect ourselves from sins in Ramadan? Same DNA, same person. What's changed? More good. You know that idea of tawfiq? We call it, what is tawfiq, everyone? What does tawfiq mean? Anyone? As awake? Huh? Tawfiq. What is tawfiq? I'm really guessing. I'm really like thinking about what is you have actually been doing. Tawfiq. Ability. Takbir. Ya Rab. So tawfiq means ability. Tawfiq, which means ability of doing good, is a natural, in a scale, tawfiq is naturally impacted by deeds. The more sins that we commit, the less tawfiq we have. Right? So if I commit more sins today, we will naturally see a dip in tawfiq of doing good. And the more good that I do, the more tawfiq I will also have. Why are we able to do more and protect ourselves from haram? Because we're doing more good deeds. So it increases the capacity of tawfiq. Then now this person is enabled to do more and more in their life. So quwwatan fil badan is that Allah gives us tawfiq. Then He says, wa barakatan fil rizq. Everyone's worried about rizq, finances. Allah puts barakah in it. Number 5 is muhabbatan fi qulubin nas. Allah puts this person's love in the hearts of people. People love this person because Allah loves this person. So deeds have an impact. So emotions and anecdotes are great. But what truly creates a change in the heart are a'mal, are good deeds. And the more good that I do, the more I am able to protect myself from the fitn around me. The fitn around me will continue to bombard me and to compromise my faith if I don't build a shield around me. And the shield is not something that is, there's no secret sauce. The shield is good deeds. And if I don't have good deeds, then I don't have a shield. And we're not living in a battlefield where people are throwing rocks. We're living in a battlefield where people are throwing bazookas at our iman. And if I don't have a shield that comes through good deeds, it's just a matter of time that one hits me. And it really crumbles my faith. So protecting faith first starts from a mentality shift. Revolutions don't begin by the way people speak. They begin by the way people think. And the Prophet changed the way they thought, which was akhirah comes first. Akhirah comes. Number two, the second shift in mentality, for the sake of protecting our faith, was the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. They come attached. The Prophet ﷺ one day, and I'll end with this lengthy narration. He one day was sitting with his companions, and he said to them, كيف بكم أيها الناس إذا طغى نساؤكم وفسق شبانكم. He says, all my companions, he was prophesizing. So, all my companions, how will you live in an era and a time where people will become disloyal to their spouses and they will become disrespectful to their parents? He's asking them, how will you live in such an era? Like, that's a pretty tough era to live in. And the Sahabas respond perplexed. And they say, أَإِنَّ هَذَا لَكَائِنٌ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Can this ever happen? Like, can that ever even... They couldn't even fathom the thought that I could speak back to my parents. They couldn't fathom the thought that I could disrespect my mother. This was something that was so distant to them that when the Prophet asked the question, like, no way, that ain't never gonna happen. And the Prophet says, Bala wa ashaddu min. This will certainly happen, and something worse than this will happen. And the Sahaba is like, what can be worse than us being disloyal to our spouses and being disrespectful to our parents? And the Prophet said, well, let me tell you. كيف بكم أيها الناس إذا تركتم الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر. How will you survive in an era when people stop enjoining good and forbidding evil? Meaning no one cares anymore. Everyone's a bystander to the filth that is around us. Everyone simply puts their shutters on and says that this has nothing to do with me until it has to do with my own children. If we live in a selfish world, then the people of this world will also not care about our own families. You know, one day I asked my mother, what is it that you think you did? We're still, us 5 brothers are nobodies, we're scum. We have nothing. But we studied and we finished our studies. So one day we asked our parents, our mother specifically, what is it that you think you did that allowed this to take place? And she said, Two things. Number one, she said, Kisi nek bandi ki dua lagi thi. Someone pious made dua for you and Allah protected you guys. That's it. I don't know what happened, but someone protected you guys. And then she said that your father would always take care of other people's children, so Allah took care of his children. Can't be selfish in this world when it comes to Iman. We call a person selfish if they don't share their food. What's more selfish than that is a person that doesn't share their faith. Sharing someone's meal saves them from hunger. Sharing your faith saves them from Jahannam. And sharing your faith doesn't mean hold a billboard. Sharing your faith is to dress the part, look the part, speak the part, walk the part. It gives us every reason to be proud. Every time we succeed in life and someone asks us why, we refer to something other than our religion. MashaAllah, you're so successful. Yeah, my parents taught me well. You're so successful. I know, man, I studied hard. And every time we struggle in life, why didn't you get a promotion? You don't understand, brother. I can't go to these parties because there's alcohol. It's haram, so I can't go. Why don't you have a house yet? You don't understand, interest is haram. So everything that is negative is associated to our faith. That shows how much we value it. We take care of other people's children, Allah will take care of our children as well. Allah will handle it. Then he says, so if we're bystanders, which is happening now, this is a fitnah. Allah in the Quran speaks about these two different animals, or rather, one's an insect, one's a bird. The insect is an ant in Surah Naml. In Surah Naml, Sulaiman alayhi salam is walking with his entire army. And he has millions of people in his army. Sulaiman was the greatest king. And as he's marching with his army, there's an ant that is she is with her other ants in her colony. And she notices that Sulaiman is coming with his army. And she runs towards her colony and she says to them, "Udkhulu masakinakum la yahtimannakum Sulaiman wa junudu." Hey guys, go back into your homes and go back into your holes, or else Sulaiman and his army will completely trample you. This ant cared about its other ants. An ant cared about its other ants, and Allah honored the story of the ant to be mentioned with Sulaiman alayhi salam. Because the ant cared about people around him or her. If we don't care about what people are doing around us, then when our children do something wrong, no one will stop them either. Because it's a cyclical the nature of life. What comes around goes around. Then Allah speaks about a bird called Hudhud. Hudhud. In the story of Sulaiman, Allah honors the bird because she found a nation that was worshipping the sun. These animals were not bystanders, so Allah spoke of them. Imagine us humans, if we're bystanders, what a crisis it would cause in society. And then the Sahabas responded by saying, no way, that will never happen. Over our dead body, the Prophet said, will happen, and something worse than this will happen. What can be worse than that? كيف بكم أيها الناس إذا رأيتم المعروف منكرا والمنكر معروفا. How will you live in a time where people will see good to be evil and evil to be good? People will actually believe that something as filthy as what this thing may be is actually meritorious and virtuous. And people will actually believe that doing something good is something wrong. What literally is happening in our time, and has happened in every era before us as well. And the Prophet of Allah, when he said this, Ali radiallahu anhu looked upon him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, that's nice. You told us what's going to happen. How do we protect ourselves? Mal makhraju minha. How do we protect ourselves? What we're talking about today. And the Prophet of Allah said, Kitabullah fihi khabru man kana qablakum wa nab'u man kana ba'dakum wa hukmu ma bainakum. The book of Allah. If I want to ask myself, how will I protect myself from the fitan around me? The first place to begin is, what is my relationship with the book of Allah? That is the ultimate source of protection. If I'm not taking the antivirus, then of course I'm going to get infected. The antivirus is the book of Allah. If I don't have a presence of this book in my life, be it at a minimal level, it could be such a limited exposure that when I drive to school or work, I just listen to it. It could be so limited, but the impact will still be there. And if it's not present in our life, we're walking into COVID without any, don't use vaccine, I guess, or no mask. We're walking into it. And this virus isn't coming for our body, it's coming for our heart and it's coming for our akhirah. How many youngsters do we know? How many of our friends in our own communities have simply found their path to be something else? And they're not much different than us. Like, what makes me different than that youngster who became murtad, who left Islam? He also came from a Muslim family, Desi Arab African. His parents also took him for Jum'ah or her for Jum'ah. Their parents also had Eid da'wat and Iftar da'wat. What's different? Nothing. Something changed. That's enough for me to say that I have to keep my guard up. If I don't keep my guard up, it may happen to me tomorrow. And I might be struck by this. So the two mentality shifts that allow us to protect our faith. Number one, as youngsters, as difficult as it may sound, we must aim to become akhirah centric. That doesn't mean we ignore our dunya, but it means we have a consolidated frame of reference and it doesn't get compromised. And number two, we allow ourselves to completely be united with the Quran on a daily basis, even if it means that we do it for a few minutes. Because that is my antivirus. That is what protects the software of my computer. If I don't have it, all these pop-ups that come, these pop-ups on websites, the pop-ups that we walk around. When I'm walking, pop up here, pop up there, pop up here. My ears are being compromised, my eyes are being compromised, my tongue is being compromised. It's gonna happen. Okay, what's my antivirus? Where is the book of Allah in my life? How much Quran is in my life? And this allows a person to truly protect their faith because they've committed themselves to building a fort around them in a time and an age where every single person is after our faith. And the only people who are able to uphold it are the ones that truly value it. If we don't value something, we cannot protect it. It doesn't matter how much people tell us it costs. It doesn't matter how much people tell us that it's worth. If I don't value the car that my dad gave me, I will not lock the doors. I don't value it. If I don't value faith, I can understand all the technical processes of protecting faith, but I won't do it because I don't value it. Value our faith, and how to protect it will come naturally. It will come because we value it. But the two things that we see in the lives of the Sahabas is that their mentality shifted towards akhirah, and they were completely attached to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by doing so, they were able to protect their faith. In today's time, my dear friends, these are the only two things that can help us, and continuously adding a'mal into our life, continuously doing more good deeds in our life. The metric of Jannah is not how we feel, it's what we've done. Allah does not ask us that you will go to Jannah because you feel like you had faith. Allah will ask us to go to Jannah because our good deeds are more than our sins. And whenever we falter, and whenever we make a mistake, know that this is part of the nature of a human being. Kullu ibn Adam khata'. That all of us will make mistakes. And the best way to allow ourselves to stand back up is tawbah. Tawbah is only possible if we believe that we made a mistake. If we believe that we didn't make a mistake, why would we do tawbah for? Why did shaitan not do tawbah? Because he believed he was right. When we start justifying things that are impermissible, as a lot of us at times, including myself, do, then we will never seek tawbah for it because we've justified it. The best claim, or rather, the best justification to mistakes and sins is a claim to weakness. Adam alayhi salam ate from the tree. What did he say? ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. Oh Allah, I made a mistake. I'm weak. I am weak. And when I understand that I am weak, I'm able to seek tawbah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that when I'm committing these sins, it doesn't overwhelm me and paralyze me to the point that I feel like there is no return for me. There's always a return. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the month of Ramadan. May Allah allow us to be amongst those people. Number one, can value the faith that Allah has given us, because those that don't have it will never be able to experience Jannah. And those that lose it will never be able to experience paradise. And for those of us that have been gifted it, we have something that on the Day of Judgment, people are ready to sell their children for. And Allah has given it to us. How is it not possible? How is it possible that I undermine that faith and I ignore the power of it? And if I value it to that degree, protection becomes natural. No one taught a mother how to protect her child. No one taught the mother how to protect her child. She simply loved her child, and that love taught her how to protect the child. No one taught the father how to be protective over his son or daughter. Becoming a father taught him how to do so. We don't need to be taught how to protect our faith. We need to be taught how to love our faith. In the moment we're taught how to love our faith, the protection will come naturally. May Allah make me amongst those people. All of you. I mean, it's 12:30 a.m. What time is it? 12:30 a.m. and you guys are sitting in the masjid. May Allah bless all of you. May Allah reward all. I have no choice. All right, Sheikh Tokir told me to come. I'm here. Like, I really don't have a choice. But I'm just here by the words of Marshawn Lynch, so I don't get fined. Right? I enjoy being here. I love being in your community. But you all are here by your own will. You guys came on your own. Maybe some of your parents forced you to come. That's okay. But the idea of what you're doing right now is a sign that we all value our faith. And we will all continue to protect it, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you all. May Allah reward your families. May Allah protect your parents. For those of you who are young, don't let the month of Ramadan pass by without making it such that you earn your mother's dua. Because the quickest way to be forgiven is to earn your parents' dua. And if I can't earn my parents, not ask. Asking for a dua is different than what? Earning a dua. Asking is not the same thing as earning. I'll actually end with this hadith actually. The Prophet ﷺ walked in the minbar. On the first step he said, Ameen. And then he walked in the second step and he said, Ameen. And then he walked in the third step and he said, Ameen. The Sahabas were very curious. They said, Ya Rasulullah, we've never seen you do this before. It was very strange of you to say Ameen 3 times. He said, the first step that I took, Jibreel alayhi salam descended from the heavens and he made a dua or a bad dua where he said, may Allah's wrath be upon he or she, ذُكِرْتُ عَنْهُ فَلَمْ يُصَلِّ عَلَيْهِ, that my name is mentioned in front of them and they don't say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That my name was mentioned and they did not send durood upon me. And the Prophet said what? The Prophet said, Ameen. Who's making the dua? Jibreel. Not people like you, not bums like me, not you, bums like me. Jibreel is making the dua. Who's saying Ameen? The Prophet of Allah is saying Ameen. So that dua has no chance of not being accepted. That's my point. The second step he took, he says that Jibreel made the dua that may Allah's wrath, and majority of us are fairly young, may Allah's wrath be upon those children who find their parents to be alive at an elderly age and are still unable to secure the bag of Jannah. They had a shortcut. They dropped the ball. If there was a shortcut to Jannah, Fudayl ibn Iyad says, is serving your parents. If there was a shortcut. He is saying Ameen, that this person, Allah's wrath is upon them. And the third one was whoever finds himself to be alive in the month of Ramadan and leaves without being forgiven. And the Prophet said Ameen. But the parents one came before. How can I be forgiven in the month of Ramadan if my parents are not being served by me correctly? If my parents are not pleased with me? All of the worship that I have committed to is somewhat suspended until my parents are proud of me. And if they're proud of me, I don't need much worship. There was a Sahaba who was on his deathbed, hadith in Sahih Muslim, and as he's on his deathbed, the Sahabas around him are saying, La ilaha illallah, talqeen. They're saying the kalima. But this guy just can't say it. He's struggling to say them, and he's a Sahaba. His faith has already been guaranteed, and his Jannah has been guaranteed, but he can't say the words. They call the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ comes, and the Prophet of Allah starts saying, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, and he still can't say it. The Prophet of Allah says, is his mother alive? And he said, yes, his mother is alive. He said, call his mother. And the mother rushes to the Prophet ﷺ. He says, "Oh mother, did your son do anything that upset you that you have not forgiven yet?" And the mother says, "Yes." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh dear mother, please forgive your son, or else he won't be able to read the kalima until he is forgiven by you." And the mother says, "Of course I forgive him." And this hadith says the moment the mother forgave him, the child was able to say, "La ilaha illallah." If we can't even say the kalima because our mother is displeased with us, then what do we think we can do in regards to any other aspect of worship? So being forgiven is the goal of Ramadan. But the condition and the prerequisite of being forgiven is that our parents love us and we're able to serve them. Let us not manipulate the idea of spirituality to those things that make us feel good. Let us identify spirituality to those things that are necessary to be done, such as serving our parents and our mothers. This allows us to be forgiven, and this will definitely protect our iman, because that dua will never be rejected. The dua of a mother and father are not rejected. May Allah make us amongst those people as well. Jazakallahu khair. Wa akhu da'wana assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think Shaykh Tawqir is outside, but if there's any questions, I'll take some questions. Normally he allows me, or he tells me to take questions. Anyone have any questions at all? I won't be mad if you don't. Okay, wait. Yeah. First one was radiance on your face. Number 2 was a light in your heart. Number 3 is internal strength, which means tawfiq. Like you just find, the opposite of this is, I'm just too tired to pray Fajr. That's the opposite, right? Whereas I'm able to still go to the gym though. That's not physical strength, that's tawfiq. The 4th is Allah puts barakah in time, sustenance, and family. Barakah. And number 5 is Allah places our love in the hearts of people around us. People start liking us because we're doing good. Even animals start liking us because we do good, right? So those are the 5 things. And the opposite 5 are for sins. That Allah places a darkness over someone's presence. He puts a dark spot on their heart. He makes them wahnatan. He makes them always feel spiritually lethargic. Not physically lethargic, but spiritually lethargic, right? Which is a real thing. Number 4, He tightens their rizq. They always feel like they don't have enough. And number 5, people just don't like them, right? Because they're always doing sins. So these are the 5 for each, good and for the bad, right? The ultimate effect of good and bad is Jannah and Jahannam. But for everything that we eat, there's a short-term effect and a long-term effect. The short-term effect of eating sugary foods is the taste. We enjoy it. But the long-term effect could be diabetes. The long-term effect of good deeds is Jannah. But the short-term effect are these 5 things, which allows us to remain motivated because we see it and we feel it and we experience it and so on. Does that make sense, inshallah? Any other question from the other side? Go ahead, Habibi. Like the mindset of akhirah? Decisions. The best way to identify someone's mindset is to see how they make decisions. How do I make the decision of where to spend my time? How do I make the decision of what to do and what not to do? This shows you and shows me where my mind is. So for example, if I had a decision to make, to go to some place where Allah's disobedience is taking place, well, my friends are going. And the opposite of it was, I go to a gathering like this. That's a very hard decision for us. Friends are there, but I want to go there as well. Now that can only be decided for us by an umbrella, which is our consistent point of reference. And if it's akhirah, then we say, will this benefit my akhirah or harm my akhirah? It helps you make your decision. When our parents move places and when we move to places, we have this list of questions that we ask. Is it better for my economy? How are the taxes? Is there a good school district? One of the questions have to be, is it better for my deen? And that shows that I have an akhirah-centric personality and I have an akhirah-centric mindset. A person that has conflicting points of reference will have a difficult time making simple decisions because they're being pulled in too many ways. And if a person has a consistent frame of reference, it's easy to make even the most difficult decisions. And that's what it means to have an akhirah-centric mentality. We all struggle with it, but it's something that we can grow. Wallahu a'lam. Now from sister side, any question? Jina. The first one is free, the second one is $10. I'm asking. Go ahead. Okay. The question was, to repeat the question was, what are the components that we can use to show people that Islam is beautiful, true, beneficial? How do we teach them and how do we portray it? And the example that you used, sister, was like fasting. What benefit does it have if it keeps us hungry? So I'll try to answer both the example and the question itself. The greatest way to portray our deen as something which is beneficial is to refer the goodness of our life to our deen. That's number one. If I have something good in my life, it should be reflected as if it is an extension of my religion, not an extension of my personality. You're such a kind person. Yeah, I know, I'm just kind. No. I'm kind because the Prophet said, whoever is not kind, Allah will not be kind to them. Man, you're always forgiving people. I know, man, I have a soft heart. No, you don't. I'm forgiving because the Prophet taught me if I don't forgive people, Allah won't forgive me. So if we are able to portray the good qualities that we possess back to our faith, this will naturally show people how effective it is in our life. If we always portray the goodness that we have to everything else, then why would anyone want to become Muslim? The Sahabas portrayed every aspect of their goodness to the fact that the Prophet was around them. There was deen within them. So everyone wanted it. Everyone wants that which brings benefit to their life. Everyone. If we see something online that makes our life easier, convenience is king, we all want to buy it. If someone can see that this religion actually empowers them, enables them, and brings bliss and ease to their life, if we can portray that to them, why would they not want it? So portray it in a way that it truly is. And this is not a front, this is the reality. If we didn't have deen, why would we be kind to our parents? Look at non-Muslims. If we didn't have deen, why would we love our siblings? If we didn't have deen, why would we want to volunteer in a masjid? Like, this is because of our deen. So that's number one. Number two, there are certain types of worship that are called ta'abbudi, where the rationale is not the focus, the reward is the focus. In fasting, the reward is the focus. We're not necessarily looking to rationalize it, though we can. There's many ways to rationalize it, and if we have time, we can do that. But the focus is my reward for it. And we do things for the reward and for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it makes sense to us, great. And if it doesn't, add it to the list of things that don't make sense to us in our life that we still do. Because we have a lot of them. Physics doesn't make sense. I still learn it. X and Y doesn't make sense in math. I still learn it. A lot of, when someone says, deen doesn't make sense to me, that's why I can't act upon it. My friend, 99% of the things that we do don't make sense to us. But we still do them. If we make the prerequisite of doing something that it makes sense to us, then remove everything else in our life as well. It doesn't make sense to us, but we still do it because everyone else is doing it. How do we make something go viral in life? Just make it the norm. And how does it become the norm? Just keep doing it till it becomes normal. There was a time, I'm sure when our parents came to this country, that praying Jum'ah at high school and college wasn't normal. They did it, so it became normal. I'm sure there was a time where wearing a kufi wasn't normal, or wearing a hijab wasn't normal at school. People did it, so it became normal. So our responsibility is to make these things normal again. And it's easy to make something normal again that is naturally beautiful. Naturally. You don't have to add a veneer to it. Right? It's already beautiful. And secondly, the way you give da'wah should be with the right packaging. What's the difference between buying a Louis Vuitton bag from Marshall's? We all go there, right? Marshall's is the spot, right? TJ Maxx. They have, all the brands, but without the price of them. What's the difference between buying a Louis Vuitton bag from Marshall's and buying it from Louis Vuitton? The price, right? It's the same bag, same company, same specs, huge price difference. Why? Any marketing majors here? Huh? Sorry? No, but they're both Louis Vuitton. TJ Maxx. Okay. We don't want anyone to take a picture of us in the Marshalls, right? No, so yeah, that's great. I mean, your answers are right, but they're wrong. But the answer is, for me, well, I may be wrong. This is all subjective. From the way I see it, the biggest difference is the way that it's packaged. The packaging makes the difference. When I buy that Louis Vuitton bag from Marshalls, I make sure to get rid of that Marshalls bag and receipt so quick. It's gone with the wind. And when you give it to your friend or your spouse or to your mother, when they ask, where'd you get it from? Who cares? Louis Vuitton. It's Louis. Why do you care where I got it from? And when I buy it from Louis Vuitton, I take a picture of the packaging before I take a picture of the product. Because what I bought was probably like the cheapest thing in the store. So I take a picture of the packaging. And that bag that we bought it with, our mother probably still has it stored to use when she gives something to someone too. When the packaging is precisely done, what is inside is never seen and never looked at. Because the packaging is so beautiful. How are we able to attract people to Deen if we don't package it with the right packaging? The same Deen they used, people became Muslim. The same Deen that we use, people turn away from Islam, is because they packaged it the way Louis Vuitton packages stuff, and we package it the way the Marshalls packages stuff, right? And if we package it correctly, people will be attracted. And the packaging of Deen is akhlaq. The more good character we have, the quicker people will be attracted to our beautiful religion. That was a lengthy answer, I apologize. It's a beautiful question though. One more, brother, from the brother side? One more from the brother side, are we good? That's good. Question is, can we go to Sahur fast? We'll go together, so it's okay, inshallah. Allah bless you all, may Allah reward you all. May Allah continue. The ones that are laughing the hardest are the ones probably going. All right, please eat on our behalf as well. No, I actually have nothing against that. MashaAllah, it's a beautiful way of encouraging people to fast. And it's a beautiful way of encouraging people to understand the beauty of Ramadan. So by all means, if there's goodness in it, we can go to it, inshallah.
Mufti Saab, what did you just do at the end? Jazakallah khair for the beautiful talk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you, Mufti Saab. We're so grateful and honored every time you take out the time to visit us. And if y'all didn't know that Mufti Saab comes from Michigan, he runs an institute called Miftah Institute. It's online, it's on Instagram, and mashallah, they're doing an amazing, they have a full-time Islamic studies program. It's online as well as it's in person as well. And they have over 240 students, mashallah. It's a boarding school. It's one of the few full-time, full-on Islamic studies where you become an imam, scholar, or just casual learning of Islamic studies in the United States or North America. There aren't many institutions over here. And this is one of the few established ones, mashallah, here in the North America, and they're doing an amazing job. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, and may Allah azza wa jal protect them. And like I said, if you don't have the option, and if you want to become a serious student of knowledge, and if you don't have the option to do so in person by going there, they also have an online option, mashallah. And I think that Hussein is already, mashallah, taking some class. Yeah, he's almost done, mashallah. He's almost done with their degree program at Miftah Institute, and he's a student of Mufti Abdul Wahhab, as we all are, mashallah. Jazakumullah khair. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it on our behalf, and I'm going to ask Mufti Saab to conclude it with a dua. Just make a quick dua, inshallah, and then we have a small gift of appreciation from Mufti Saab. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa sallim. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم يا الله يا حي يا قيوم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا رحمن يا رحيم. Wallah, we ask you to accept everything that was said and accept everything that was heard. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept the presence of everyone coming here today. Ya Allah, we ask you to make it a means of success in their salvation in this world and in the afterlife, O Allah. Ya Allah, protect us and protect our iman, O Allah. Protect us and protect our iman, O Allah. during this difficult, this turbulence time, O Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to make it easy for us to practice our iman, to practice our deen, and to practice our religion, O Allah. Ya Allah, remove any type of hardship and difficulty that comes our way, O Allah. Ya Allah, remove any type of hardship and difficulty that comes our way, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect our youth, our children, our sisters, our seniors, our elders, our adults, and every member of our community and every member of our society. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect our scholars, our shuyukh, and our teachers, O Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you to continue to guide them and protect them, O Allah. Ya Allah, bless them and make it easy for them, O Allah, just as they take the time to come and visit our communities and teach us and educate us, O Allah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. A small gift for Mufti Sahab. Somebody's keys, Urwa Khan. You can come home.